Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Oracle CloudWorld, our digital edition. I'm Samir Khosla. I'm the VP of Product Management within the Talent Acquisition product area of our HCM Cloud Suite. And today we're going to talk about how to fill positions at speed and support internal mobility. We're going to start by talking about the current state. What we hear from you all as customers who are running talent acquisition organizations, who are running HR organizations, and what are some of the things you talk about in our conversations with you as we speak to customers around the world, and what are the challenges that you're looking to solve? And that's, sets a nice backdrop for why internal mobility is so important. The world of recruiting today is certainly a challenging one, right? We've heard a lot about our challenges with attraction and retention of talent. A couple of years ago, it was mostly, a workforce that, we were looking to find, the hard to find talent around. Now, we've also added, certain dimensions around focus for diversity, multi-generation workforce, a lot of, importance and rightfully so in these areas. And also unprecedented disruptions, right? With the new world of remote work and how talent is evaluating companies in many new ways that are, something that has certainly been a big change for organizations all around the world. And with that, a lot of departments are now looking at retention as a really big priority. We've seen a lot more turnover on roles than what we've been used to. And now coping with turnover has become a top priority for talent acquisition departments. And this is from a 2021 study from the Future of Talent Acquisition by the HR Research Institute. And, what is tough about this is that, if there is a position that turns over, many of you know that the cost of that, based on the salary of the position, the time to hire, the amount of resources it takes to backfill that role, and with the right skills and so on, it's a big challenge. And really, the point is, how can we avoid some of that turnover? How can we actually fix retention? And it's, in some ways, a win-win. And the thing that really helps us here is internal mobility. When organizations have reported something like 87% agreement that strong internal mobility programs support retention, this is a big lever. And we're starting to hear it from our customers, but also read about it from industry analysts. IDC in their report last year, when they were talking about modern metrics for talent acquisition, talked about this. The value of an effective internal mobility function cannot be overstated. I mean, that, is such a strong statement. And many of these things, we intuitively understand, right? It's improved ramp up time. It's being able to really, more than anything else, demonstrate how much the organization cares about employee loyalty. That builds your employer brand. That builds your employer brand with your team as well as externally. And that, is essentially how, by nurturing that talent pipeline organically, you start to unlock that internal mobility can actually lead to retention and less of those costs that come from turnover. So we all, now we've spoken about how important this is in your organization. Let's talk about how we can make a difference, how we can actually unlock internal mobility, fill positions with speed with internal candidates. And I'd like to introduce to you a framework that, is all about, something that is, you all can take to all of your organizations and make it right for you. The framework here is, let's start with setting the foundation. Make sure that it's clear in your organization what internal mobility is all about. Continuous engagement with your teams, continuous engagement with your talent. That's what's going to make that successful. and then look for ways to measure and really drive those measurable improvements through that. So let's start by what do we mean by set the foundation? This topic, internal mobility, you're all here because you think it's important and you want to do something about it in your organization. And I think the first thing is you would want to have a definition that your organization can center around. When you go around asking people what does internal mobility mean to your organization, or what is the importance of internal mobility to your organization, this is the kind of word cloud that you'll probably see. And that's not necessarily that helpful, right? While all of these are great, what you want to be able to do is have a really clear statement of the vision for this program for internal mobility in your organization, and then how you're going to try to bring that about. And we think your vision should be really broad. Just to give you an example of what it could encompass, when we think about employee growth and mobility, we think about not just career development. Obviously, that is a very important part of it. And we think about, what steps you may be thinking about from an employee standpoint in terms of developing to the next role, the next level in your career. But also, growth and mobility, if we look at it in a much more holistic way, you don't change jobs that often, but you are looking to grow skills. You are looking to take on new learning opportunities, gigs or other programs that we can surface through Opportunity Marketplace, even just make connections, growth and mobility through things like mentoring, and growth and mobility through participating in programs. And we'll give you many examples of other types of programs, volunteering being a very important one. And then driving all that, not just by bringing people in one-off, but through very orchestrated experiences like our Journeys experiences. So think about how you can drive a holistic view of growth and mobility in your team, and that can turn into a really interesting way to look at this from an organization standpoint. Also, you want to drive it from your employee standpoint, right? So you're going to kind of go tops down and bottoms up. You want to be able to really understand from your talent, how do they think about internal mobility? What are the aspirations that they bring to this question? What are their thoughts on growing abilities, skills, competencies? Do they think about growing their networks as part of internal mobility? Bringing that picture in from both directions is going to help you evaluate what are some things that you can do to broaden that definition of mobility opportunities, right? So of course there are job changes. And like I said, those are things that most organizations are doing, measuring, and so on. But think about the breadth of mobility opportunities beyond that. And what I've seen in many organizations are some of these kinds of opportunities now that organizations are bringing to their employees as ways to foster more mobility. Innovation jams, unstructured time, like slicing off a time piece and saying, hey, you have an opportunity to work on something outside of your normal day-to-day responsibilities. Tiger teams or other special projects. Are you fostering a culture where people can then take on cross-functional, cross-business problems through these special assignments? Most organizations are some kind of volunteering programs, special interest groups. People can develop leadership type of skills even on those type of opportunities. And then formal programs, rotations, or international assignments, all kinds of interesting mobility opportunities that maybe your organization has or maybe doesn't have today, but could become a really important way to frame your overall internal mobility program. Now that you've framed that program, a lot of this comes down to making it top of mind for people, right? That is all. When I talk about continuous engagement, it is about that employee communication. Josh Person, one of the famous analysts in our sphere of HCM, he put this out there a couple of years ago. Employee communication is a mission critical CEO connected effort. And that is, yeah, I wholeheartely agree with that. And it can be applied to so many places. But with internal mobility, you can think about a whole life cycle of communication, right? So, pre-launch, when you're, as I said, maybe pulsing your employees to say, how do you want to think about these kinds of things as mobility? What kind of programs resonate? What kind of opportunities may resonate? Maybe you're forming that strategy, and then you have a launch for that context, and that strategy is launched. Then you will really want to have communications around keeping their employees' profiles current, so that you have visibility to talent, to each other, to be able to make those connections, to be able to leverage those opportunities, have some personalization. We'll talk about some of the capabilities in HCM Cloud that bring personalization to mobility opportunities. And then talk about areas of success, right? Ultimately, success breeds more success. So having a closed loop on what are some things that employees have taken advantage of, what are some growth stories, maybe some personal stories of employees, and then celebrations of metrics, right? So you want to have that qualitative look at employees, as well as quantitative look at the program level. So you think about all of that life cycle of communications, and you can leverage some of those communication capabilities in our HCM platforms. We have a brand new communication solution called HCM Communicate that we introduced just this year for these kind of program communications. You can use that also to drive journeys to completion. And then something we've had in Oracle Recruiting, which are recruiting campaigns, right? So you can nurture internal talent through those recruiting campaigns, or you could have talent communities where you have community around a certain job function, maybe certain type of geography, and you're sending those targeted opportunities through those campaigns. And we'll talk a little bit more about product functionality later, but these are the kinds of things that are available to you today. This is a screenshot from HCM Communicate, for example. And then what do those campaigns lead to? It's something like an open opportunity marketplace. We have the opportunity marketplace in HCM Cloud that several customers have taken advantage of to help employees explore opportunities, to gain those experiences, build skills. You can filter on opportunities by things like skills and grow careers. So all that is leverageable today that are things that are relatively new and relatively few customers have adopted so far. So things that we'll showcase a little bit more in terms of capabilities a little later as well. So we talked about continuous engagement, and then a lot of this is about results. And when it comes to mobility programs, when we talk about measure, there are many interesting ways to measure this. You probably have some measures around some of the traditional metrics. How many of your positions were filled by internal employees, or how many of your employees made an internal transfer in the last, say, year or 2 years or 3 years? And you should continue those. But I also think about that more holistic definition of mobility. And you should have a really good set of metrics around participation. And maybe, you can have some really high bar for, your employees participating in at least one of those kind of programs. And, you could then have second order effects, right? So, I'll share some data in terms of talent acquisition teams' efficiency gains when positions are filled internally versus externally based on what we see in Oracle Recruiting Cloud customer data. And then another effect from that is, of course, satisfaction and retention, right? So if you're able to correlate that, certain types of people who have taken advantage of certain types of programs and what are their retention rates, what are their satisfaction rates as employees, that is, of course, really powerful way to measure your success as well. With the Oracle Recruiting customers, just a really simple metric, average number of candidates needed to fill an open requisition. When we look at all of the requisitions that were filled by an internal candidate, those requisitions only needed 9 candidates on average. and we look at all the candidate requisitions that were filled by an external candidate, on average, those requisitions needed 25 candidates before they were filled. So imagine, you have almost 3 times as many candidates to go through and evaluate and consider and go through all of that process with. And so being able to do that on a much more effective way as a talent organization team is just one of the ways that you can look at other metrics beyond kind of some of the traditional ones that I was alluding to. With that framework, I also wanted to introduce some capabilities that kind of go through that entire life cycle that can help you within HCM Cloud. We talked about something that's really important, which is your employees, your talent, having it top of mind for them to update their profiles. With our new connections experience, you can have a really rich profile, which, your employee can go through and talk about, their life and their life, holistically outside of work and some of their interests and so on, their skills, their areas that they're actually looking to improve, their experiences, both within your company as well as before your company. And that profile becomes the foundation for mobility and becomes the foundation for networks to form. So, hopefully that will then lead to people with, with either formal or informal networks within the company, forming when that becomes, current information. We also have, for teams that are like talent acquisition teams, very powerful capabilities like talent pools. This is a concept that, is candidate relationship management for external candidates, but really talent pools can be leveraged very well for internal candidate pools as well. And that's something that I think is under-leveraged as a way to continuously nurture certain employees with certain interests to be able to bring that level of engagement to the next level. And with those pools, you can campaign to those pools. We have a very rich campaigning capability that also can be leveraged to talk about these programs and surface those programs to the right employee populations. Now, those programs could be about building skills, and of course, you would maybe land your employees in to learn, or they could be about finding new opportunities, like a new job or a new gig, which are both surfaced through Opportunity Marketplace. And that's how you might bring things to your employees. Or within Opportunity Marketplace, employees could be set up to get alerted of opportunities. They can actually put preferences in terms of the kind of jobs that they are looking to develop or the kind of skills that they're looking to develop and grow into. And that will automatically highlight those to them through Opportunity Marketplace and through alerts. So that becomes a really powerful new way for the organization to foster mobility with personalization. Let's say that the employee then applies to those recommended positions, and of course they then take on a new role, and over time those skills get added to their profile, and it's a continuously growing closed loop of success stories that you can then go on and highlight. And as I said, you want to highlight both the success stories at a personal level and those successes as a metrics. And we of course have a lot of analytics tools within the HCM cloud that can help you choose the metrics that you would want to monitor across these programs and bring that to surface that for your workforce as well. So with all that, there are many aspects of HCM Cloud beyond what I've touched on, but just a few that I think are relatively new and not leveraged as widely, that I think could be very useful in terms of driving this overall framework for unlocking internal mobility. As we've talked about today, set the foundation, get a good definition that your organization can agree upon, that can align upon, a vision that is holistic around a lot of different types of programs, not just job changes that are relatively infrequent in someone's career, and then talk about these with your employees. Have a two-way engagement, continuous engagement around mobility as a priority, and then look for results, look for success stories, share those success stories, measure the results, and make that whole process just build upon itself. That's how you unlock internal mobility in your organization. And I wish you the best of success with that. So with that, I wanted to say thank you again for attending. And if you'd love to, give feedback or have any questions about this, you can always reach me. There's my email address. And once again, enjoy the rest of Oracle Cloud World. Thank you.